openers.
Yes, I'm going there. Today, I will show my naked body on one of the videos. And so people just went crazy with this, right? People were like, oh my gosh. You have Blair White saying, like, oh, we're going to get Nancy Mace's boobs before we get the Epstein list. Like, I hate this timeline. A lot of these funny memes are coming out. And she didn't actually show her naked body, only kind of like technically. So if you go to the one that you had staged, the video, that was her actually displaying it and putting that little image up behind her. And what you can see is it's like a CCTV, looks like a ring camera for an inside the home. And she has her body circled there. Most people, for one, because no charges have been brought against Patrick Bryant yet, he's denied all the allegations. It's been reported that he has been fully cooperative with the department. Still haven't had new charges. And it's been like 2 years in the running. He's an ex-fiance, which she, coincidentally leaves out the entire time. You kind of have to dig a little bit to realize Patrick Bryant was her ex-fiance.
Well, I was curious about that because isn't she running against this guy potentially in an upcoming governor race if she chooses?
So that's like the key part with this too. So if I go back, I'll pull it up.
So forgive me if I jumped ahead for that. My bad. But
no, you're fine.
I didn't know that they were fiancés. I was curious when I heard her actually. She did an interview on Crowder this morning, and
yes. I have that next to me.
She addressed some of the tough questions, which I thought it was pretty great. But go ahead, continue.
Yeah, no. So you're spot on there, and so it's not that she's going to be running against Patrick Bryant. It's that she has used this instance because the Attorney General is Alan Wilson. Alan Wilson is going to be who is running and expected to run against Nancy Mace in 2026 for governor. And so that brings back to the evidence we have. She's claiming that Alan Wilson not only is like he delayed the investigation on purpose, but that she has given him tons of evidence and he's just not acting on anything. Claiming that, again, Alan Wilson's one of those misogynistic guys who doesn't believe women. And the through line with that too is the fact that Mace has been at multiple events with Alan Wilson. It's also reported that they have each other's phone numbers, and Mace has made no private attempt to get a hold of Wilson or anything along those lines. The biggest thing with it, though, is what I found out after reading deeper into some of these articles is it's called the speech and debate clause. So let me find it here in particular. But it's the speech and debate clause, which supposedly protects any legislator while they're on the House floor. Anything they say and any action is protected by that, meaning that you can't be sued for remarks that you would make if you were on the House floor saying these things, which again, in turn, protects her from defamation if Patrick Bryant were to want to go after her for all these faulty claims or false allegations. And so there's a line here, which is Mace is not ever making any of these private instances or private claims, but she's making the large berth of all of her claims behind the protection of that speech clause. So all of that combined, right? Everything there, very high profile individuals involved. It's been 2 years. There's no charges. On its face, I go, okay, I don't believe you. I think it was just I think you're just mad at your ex. And Malcolm Flex even said that. Many people said that too. They think that this is just a abuse of power. She's using this moment to just kind of defame her ex over something, they might have just had a disagreement. And supposedly it fell apart because he was on a dating app and he denied those allegations too. But if you get to the Steven Crowder interview, which I did have in the outline there, maybe make sure I can find where it's at.
Do we want to play this clip of her here?
Yes, yeah, we'll play that one first because this is her, showing off her naked body to Congress.
All right, so while I play this, if you want to stage the Crowder clip.
Exhibit 1, behind me is a screenshot from one of the videos I found of myself. The yellow circle, this naked silhouette, is my naked body. I didn't know that I had been filmed. I didn't give my...
It's blurred, YouTube.
My consent. I didn't give my permission. And this particular video that Patrick Bryant recorded of me on his secret camera, he saved for over 3 years without my knowledge.
Okay, so this is more up your alley than mine, but maybe no more female leaders? Because, they're not keeping video like this for 3 years of Chris Christie.
Right.
You
Well,
know,
and
you know what I'm saying?
that was like my verdict at the end of it was like this woman. And so you had most people saying this. People were saying like they think Nancy Mace is more insufferable than AOC, which even my wife, like, she kind of disagrees. She's like, I don't think it's that bad. In my opinion, I think Nancy Mace, because she's a Republican and does all of the same kind of leftist female bullshit, like she is worse than
The woke
AOC.
right. She's
Yeah.
like the woke right. She plays the
Yeah, it's
victim
like
card, kind of similar to the
right. Exactly. It's like you're
caters
just like
to the echo chamber or whatever. Not the echo
Yeah.
chamber, but the virtue signal.
Yeah, and if like the trans thing wasn't a thing, she probably would be a Democrat, right? That's like her big thing, and she just like doesn't like
Sure.
trans people, right? So if there
Right.
wasn't a thing and she didn't have that issue to combat, she probably would honestly be a Democrat, maybe more of an establishment Democrat. But the post from Crowder actually got quoted by Wilson in two of them because Gerald actually went in a little bit harder than Stephen did.
He did.
On the clips that are floating around, and I actually got the Gerald clip too. But Wilson and Crowder, and it's funny because Crowder's using Wilson's kind of jargon. Crowder calls her out on this covert feminist stuff, you know, saying like, especially on the Me Too movement side of things, like you can't expect people to believe you because we've had way too many extremely high profile public cases like Amber Heard, like Kavanaugh. There's a couple other major ones too. I'm not thinking of right now.
Well,
like,
they
with
referenced
Bauer,
they referenced Trevor Bauer. He lost $100 million contract.
right.
We saw it happen to Ezekiel Elliott a few years ago. You know, we don't got to list all the people, but there's a couple additional ones that are outside the political realm.
Right. And then you have this, like, no one's going to believe you, especially when the evidence you're presenting is like with this, right? Like, because I looked this up the other day too. Like 54% of all Americans in the report own security cameras.
Mhm.
Now, there's not like any kind of like direct data that shows outdoor versus indoor, but I would imagine, especially like in like very higher up neighborhoods, like middle class or high or high class or upper class, would probably have cameras for inside of their home too. Especially with high profile individuals, you're probably having a lot of meetings, a lot of like people coming in and out of your home. You probably would have that for extra security.
Right, or if you just got expensive stuff or whatever, kids.
Right. And so like the evidence to me doesn't meet the burden of giving like enough suspicion to think that Patrick Bryant outright, just based on what you're saying and showing, is guilty of anything. Because I just don't believe it. And then you pair that with the fact that she's been so vocal about this for 2 years now, and there's still no charges. I'm like, I'm sorry, like I just don't believe you. And truth be told, if you do show me something that's like, okay, yeah, there's enough strong enough evidence to believe otherwise, then I will. But otherwise, like you just saying it, I'm not going to take you at your word for it. But I do have the Crowder clip staged here because this is him kind of rebuttaling her for the covert feminism, which is a book or play out of the playbook from Andrew Wilson. But he writes, you know, perfect exchange here. She moves seamlessly between the feminist talking point, women aren't believed, to when women do this, though, it's bad. Stephen correctly calls this covert feminism. He is exactly correct. And here is this clip.
Actually, before you press play, I want to add that Gerald had a really valid argument to this. And well, actually, just go ahead and play it because it might include it. Go ahead.
Yeah.
My bad. We're not catching any audio.
You couldn't hear it?
No audio.
I might have to
I got it right here. I can pull it up.
Do you? Okay, let me pull it off.
I think it's the same one. Perfect exchange here. Is that the same one? Yeah.
Yes, should be.
Oh, let me minimize this. Okay.
About false allegations.
My fault. Sorry if that was loud for you guys. Here we go.
And I have a son like you. I have a son and I have a daughter. My fears are the same. My fears for my daughter are the same as your fears for your daughter. My fears for my son are the same as your fears for your son. I've had to have very frank conversations with my son about false allegations because that is a problem. And the women that come forward and make false claims do a great disservice to real victims when they come after or come later because women aren't believed generally. And so that's tough. And so that has to be, you have to tamp down.
Well, hold on a second. That sounds like covert women are very much believed. I mean, we have example after example in the Me Too era.
It's funny. They laughed pretty hard, the whole entire group, after they got off this interview, whenever she said that, they like repeated and said, she claimed that the left doesn't believe the left doesn't believe women or something like that, and they all just cracked up because it's just like so blatantly wrong.
The
You know?
inverse.
Right.
The problem was the
In our
proliferation of
party,
false.
they are not. Democrats don't believe women. So like,
No. That's the opposite. That's the opposite. Aziz Ansari had a bad date, for crying out loud. I mean, you look at a guy like Chris Hardwick, he's a Democrat. I was in defending people. I'm going, well, this is not the same as rape. You went over to his hotel room at 2 a.m. There are plenty of sex out there. In Mattress Girl, the guy at Columbia never got to go to graduation. And it turns out she was sexually assaulting him. So I would disagree with that premise that women are not
she should be
believed.
charged with a crime and should face jail time. Women that do that
Sure.
should face jail time.
Yes, but the problem I have with the premise is that right now in today's society, women are often believed, and there's the court of public opinion that often takes priority over the actual court.
Yeah, and so this clip did lack the part where Gerald asked the question, but Gerald was very specific in trying to hammer down the point that in this accusation, did she have to absolutely include the guy's name? And I think it's a valid point considering everything that we've learned in the wake of Me Too and stuff like that. Like,
Right.
and once you include the guy's name and tack it to this type of accusation, then you're you know what I'm saying? Then you're opening up a whole new can of worms, like what we've seen with Trevor Bauer and some of the names that we've already mentioned. Speaking of which, Trevor Bauer, I hope the Royals sign him one of these days because he's still throwing heat over there. He's playing baseball, but he's in the Japanese league, and he's being blackballed by the MLB, which is a damn shame.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's countless of examples that you can find of guys who were, false allegations. Even, I mean, there's some that aren't with high profile individuals, right? How many football players have we had and basketball players just at like local colleges who aren't even like, they might be local stars on campus, but their lives being ruined. There was a recent one where the guy served like 7 years in prison before the lady finally felt bad enough about it that she admitted she lied. And then nothing happens to her, but he lost 7 years of his life. So there's a portion of people that are just like entirely over it and like they could care less, especially because like you even go down to like some of the consent stuff too, right? It's like Josie drank, Jeff drank, Josie can't consent. And it's like, hold on a minute. Like, what? like they both drank, what? And how can the guy who still have made a decision in good conscience? And so
now that is toxic femininity.
Right. Yeah. And to be more on the nose with Nancy Mace, I mean, in particularly, like, I am someone who's always been very vocal about women not being involved in politics. We probably won't show it, but in the first video, her initial post before she broke the internet with her second one that quoted it, she alluded to multiple times, like, and I'm not doing this for myself. I'm doing this for other women. And she said it like multiple times as if she was like having to remind herself, like she was trying to validate for herself. But to me, all I'm pulling away from this is like, look at me. Yeah. And you even have a lot of the females in the dissident, right? Can't stand her, right? Anna Perez and Cassandra McDonald, formerly Cassandra Fairbanks, many others, and she had a pretty viral tweet, which is like, all right, Nancy Mace, you convinced me women shouldn't be in politics anymore. And for me, I'm a lot closer to a very radical portion of the group here. I'm kind of almost too far right to be in MAGA, that I would only want to see Christian men be in offices of power. And that's my personal opinion. But I think many of those who share that, even if they're not full horn like Christian nationalists, they might want to just move more towards just patriarchy in general. And Nancy Mace just does not represent that, not to me at all. And I think overwhelmingly, it's just a major distraction. She does some good things, sure. She is the person who proposed the legislation to expel McIver out of Congress, which is secondary to the charges, which Warrol's about to get in with you guys here in a second. But again, my main verdict with this and my conclusion when I made a video about it, which is on my personal channel, was she has given the dissident right and all the incels as much fodder as they need to go, this is why women shouldn't be in politics. Look at her. Like, she is now the shining flagship example of why women should not even be here in the first place. And especially too, like, if we're like a year down the road and it's found out that like Patrick Bryant really didn't do anything and like she made all this stuff up, I mean, you're using taxpayer dollars to basically like draw attention to a story about yourself while also getting the privilege of the protections. That way you don't ever get sued for anything you said.
Right.
To me, it just comes off super slimy. I don't believe it. And it's just, I think it's another Amber Heard story in the making.
Right. And you know, some things to factor in here. You know, was this in his house? I assume this surveillance video was in his house. It wasn't from like a random Airbnb, which would have been, you know, untoward. You shouldn't have a camera like or whatever inside an Airbnb like that, or a hotel room or something. This appears to be a house. She appears to be comfortable. So, like you said, there were fiancés. She's staying the night. A lot of home videos like this are actually saved automatically onto a cloud. So people don't even intentionally keep or delete these types of videos, especially if you're just paying for huge cloud storage, and all of your surveillance is just going uploaded to the cloud. Could potentially be this scenario of why he kept it so long. You know, it might only just recently be found out that it even existed. Maybe she logged into the app. Look, I got 4 cameras outside and 1 inside my house. It's like $200 worth of cameras. They're so cheap on Amazon nowadays. They all come with an app. They all offer some type of cloud service. And, you know, it's
okay. So you do have one in your house. Is that what you just said?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's
okay,
probably naked pictures, a video of me walking through my living room at some point, going from the shower to the bedroom or something like that. You know what I mean?
Like, my wife was taking videos of me without my consent.
Right. So it's being realistic. Anybody that has a surveillance side of their house probably has a similar video of themselves uploaded to the cloud that they're not even aware of. So, I mean, just trying to be realistic here with this scenario. And I mean, you know, even going back a little bit further, even Harvey Weinstein at this point, you have people like Candace Owens out here saying that Harvey Weinstein was innocent. Everything that he did was consensual within the deal. These women that he was sleeping with knew what they were doing it for. So it was a mutual exchange, more likened to prostitution than, you know, what he was accused of. And so, you know, when it comes to these type of things, the believe all women thing is definitely out the window for me. But
same here. And I think, you know, if I was to put on a full like tinfoil hat, you know, thinking cap on, to me it feels, because Alan Wilson is such also like attached to the story, and the way she's going about it and the timing of everything makes me believe that this is more so just a power play to really damage Alan Wilson leading into her 2026 bid for governor. Especially if she can, you know, she can point to all these events and be like, look at all the times I cried for someone to please do something. Alan Wilson doesn't believe women. And then you can paint Alan Wilson into a very bad corner, where if no one knows what's going on with the story, they're like, wow, Alan Wilson didn't investigate this for a year and a half. Like, man, that guy must really suck. And I mean, that's me. But, and I also always attribute the worst to people, just because I think attributing things to ignorance when you could attribute it to malice. I'm the inverse of that. Like, I don't attribute to ignorance what can be explained. Like, I think most people, if you can't understand it, I'm going to attribute evil to it. That's kind of like,
if you're dealing with the highest levels of government, for sure.
Right. Yeah. And especially with stuff like that, maybe it's less so if, you know, on personal stories. And with the Harvey Weinstein stuff, I've actually like not looked into that whatsoever. So I'm like, I'll reserve my opinion until I look up a bit more. But the funny thing with that is I saw a little photo, and it was like a yearbook kind of design of a bunch of like the modern actresses in this era, or like a lot of the younger ones from like recent movies by like the last 3 or 4 years. And the guy was just making a comment, they're all ugly. Harvey Weinstein would have never let this happen. You know, and it's just a picture of all these modern actresses who just don't look, you know, as good as the previous generation. I just thought that was funny.